Welcome back. I'm Miranda Kahn. It's time now to take a look at your health radar. The FDA approves new drugs aimed at treating irritable bowel syndrome. 28 million of us in the U.S. are affected by IBS, and symptoms can be tough to deal with on a daily basis. Analysts expect the new drugs to become popular in treating the gastrointestinal disorder. The Mediterranean diet gets a new endorsement. The British Journal of Cancer says women who follow the plan cut their risk of developing uterine and endometrial cancer by more than 50%. The diet includes eating veggies, fruits, and nuts, as well as fish and olive oil. And speaking of diets, if you live in Mississippi, well, you might want to go on one. That's because a new Gallup poll says that state, sorry to say it, has the highest obesity rate in the nation. The Magnolia State has been given the dubious honor for a second year in a row. Researchers at the University of Colorado say smokers are less likely to vote than non-smokers. In fact, the study suggests daily smokers are 60% less likely to vote. And stressed out wives could be contributing to their husband's high blood pressure. That's according to a study at the University of Michigan. Researchers found that husbands have higher blood pressure when their wives reported greater stress. Stop stressing us out.
I'd say happy life, or happy wife, happy life. Miranda, I do say that. Well, costs associated with Obamacare are on the rise, and to talk more about this, we're going to bring in Nick Tate, Deputy Health Editor at Newsmax and newsmaxhealth.com. Nick, when I saw this news, I had to say I was not surprised. Of course, we got this upcoming Supreme Court ruling, but when you look at these potential spikes in healthcare costs, I go back to when we first started talking about this with your book, the Obamacare Survival Guide. Of course, you got the Baby Boomer Survival Guide out now, but folks should not have been surprised to hear about these potential spikes, should they?
I don't think so, John. We've been talking about it for years that the rates were going to be going up, but what is surprising is how high they're rising. Looking at the numbers in New Mexico, Healthcare Services Corp is asking for a 51% rate hike. In Tennessee and Maryland, Blue Cross Blue Shield is looking at rate hikes of between 30 and 36%. In the other 10 or so states where we've seen these projected premium hikes, they're ranging between 8 and about 20%. So the numbers are really high. Insurers are saying the reason is that the Affordable Care Act is costing them more money. And many of the people that have signed up for these new health insurance plans through Obamacare are older, sicker individuals. And to cover those individuals and provide the proper care, everyone who gets insurance has to pay more.
Now, is that the specific reason these healthcare providers are giving for these skyrocketing costs, the older, more sick people?
That's right. What they're using is for the first time we've had a full year. They've had a full year of insurance signups to look at in 2014, so they can see who's signing up. They can see what their costs are, and now that rather than guessing at what those costs are going to be, which is one reason that health insurance premiums have been rising at a lower rate over the last 2 years, instead of guessing, they're basing these numbers on actual signups, actual costs, and the real reflections of costs are being put forward in these proposals.
Now, when we first started hearing about these possible spikes, we heard about things like these teaser rates and that they were offering these artificially low subsidized health insurance plans under Obamacare. Is that what we're seeing now, the hen coming home to roost, so to speak?
In some ways, yes. I think those earlier rates were really reflecting that the costs of providing health care were not rising as fast, the economy was not doing as well, and now that the economy is booming and health care costs are continuing to expand, those lower sort of introductory rates are rising. And the likelihood, I hate to say this, but the likelihood is, John, we're going to be talking a couple years from now, I will predict now that those rates are going to continue to go up for the foreseeable future.
Now, at one point we also talked about those rates eventually coming down at some point in the future. Do you even think that's going to happen at this point?
You know, early on I was holding out hope that they would, that as more people got insurance, less people would use hospitals as a primary care facility. But in fact, what's happening is people continue to turn to ERs for care, and the rates that we thought would go down because of that unreimbursed care, that would go down, has not really happened at this point. I think it's really, I'd like to dial those comments back and say, predicting that healthcare costs will come down will really surprise me at this point. I think the best we can hope for is that they will rise at a lower level than we've seen.
Very, very concerning stuff. Let's turn our attention now to skin care. Of course, Memorial Day marked off the unofficial start of summer. Millions of Americans already hitting beaches, but a new study says 80% of sunscreens don't actually work. What do we do?
Well, here's the thing. I don't want to be a beach buzzkill, but what you have to do is you have to make sure that you're looking at what's in the products you're using. Products that guarantee they're better because they have higher SPF values, over 50, really don't provide any benefit. And many sunscreens, up to 80%, may contain products like vitamin A and other chemicals that in fact can increase your risk. So choose wisely. Continue to use sunscreen, but make sure you're choosing sunscreen with an SPF of between 15 and 50. Reapply it. You might want to avoid the spray sunscreens because they can be inhaled and cause some problems. And just make sure you're reading what's in the label so that they are using more natural products and not as many of the chemicals that we list on Newsmax.com that you'll want to avoid.
Also some good apparel out there. If you want to get a long sleeve shirt to swim in or a big hat, that might be your best option too. That's
You're
what
right
I do.
about that.
I've been under the knife already, had some stuff removed, pre-cancerous stuff. You don't want to mess around. Nick Tate, great to have you with us. And to learn more about Nick and what he's been taking a look at, you can get the copy of the Da Vinci Baby Boomers Survival Guide by going to babyboomers711.com. Again, babyboomers711.com.